Hey everybody, this is Zach. We are here at FFG Worlds 2015, and I am joined by a very special guest, Senior Vice President of Communications, Steve Horvath. Steve, how you doing?
Great. How are you?
I'm fantastic. So Worlds has been awesome so far. How's it gone for you guys?
It's kind of mind-blowing, really.
Tell me
right?
more.
Well, I mean,
what's blowing your mind?
To see nearly 300 X-Wing players Wednesday fighting it out all day through 8 long rounds, and see Nathan, 14 years old, go up into the final against Paul. That was epic, and we had like over 3,200 people watching the live stream on a Thursday afternoon when they should be working. Thank you for that, by the way. That's awesome.
Yes, thank you. That's quite the story, right?
Yeah.
A 2-time world champion versus a 14-year-old in the finals.
It was amazing, and Paul just had a really, really strong game. He deserved to win, but Nathan, really handled himself with a lot more poise than I think a lot of adults would in that situation. So we couldn't have asked for a better final. I couldn't have scripted something better myself, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was just phenomenal. And Paul is such a great ambassador for the game. When I talked to him afterwards, the first thing he said was like, "I'm sorry I keep winning." It's like, no, don't. This is great, right?
That's a great story.
It's fantastic. Yeah. And I mean, it shows that there's so much skill in that game that people don't realize.
Yeah.
It's really amazing, and it was fun to see a young man come up. I think he said in an interview with you guys afterwards, he got so good because, well, he's young, he doesn't have to work, and he can play a lot.
I haven't seen that yet, but that's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I wish I was young and could play a lot, right?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, we'll enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So you guys are growing so fast. Worlds is exploding. I remember back in 2012, you guys were across the way, and it was maybe a couple, like 150 people.
2012 was 180 people.
Yeah, and you had 300 for X-Wing on Wednesday.
Yes.
Well,
I hadn't quite thought of it like that. Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
So you guys are growing like crazy, and you're changing, and you're constantly doing new things and trying new stuff out. And so over the years, what is the most exciting? What's your like crowning like favorite update and change to Worlds as a system in that time frame?
Wow, that's hard to say. Yeah, thanks. That wasn't on your list, I don't think, but okay. Just to see how the communities are really coming together and how it's really a truly global community. For sure. We've been going out to the airport picking up the national champions that we've been flying in from around the world.
That's awesome.
And so many of them have a group of players with them that didn't win the national, but they're here to play anyway.
Yeah.
And there was a guy who came from Germany he bought a ticket, but he couldn't get in. He just came anyway, right? He had a ticket to Worlds, but he had no event tickets.
That's awesome.
It's amazing, right? I mean, the community is really becoming a global community, and that's phenomenal. I mean, if you remember years ago when we talked about it, I said, moving it here to really, really focus on it, one of the key drivers of that, besides that being able to focus so much more on it here than I can at another show, was to fly champions in from around the world and make it much more of a global, opportunity. Yeah. Some people have games they call it World Championship, and it's just a bunch of guys in, California or something, right? Whatever, right?
Yeah,
just
Worlds,
here,
as it were.
Yeah, and now it's got, I don't know the exact number, but it's something like 15 to 20% of the people that are here are from outside the States, and that's awesome.
That is really cool, and I think it is really telling the communities, like you're saying, that you have people showing up. We have people from our area who had a ticket to Worlds but no event tickets.
Yeah.
Hoping they get to play something, but they don't even care because they're here for the people, which is really the greatest part of these games.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's really cool. All right, so you guys changed some things this year about Worlds. On the registration, you added a 5th day, which is cool. So you could basically get more people involved, right? And tell me a little bit about I know there was some rumbling about the registration and the capping and the ideas behind why you needed to do what you did and maybe how you're going to address that in the future.
Well, last year we got close on a couple events of not being able to seat everybody that wanted to show up because people didn't pre-register. And there were a couple events where people were showing up at the day of, and we were counting down seats going, well, if anybody else shows up, we're not going to have room for them.
So they may have traveled.
Yeah, and I don't want that to happen, right? We don't do this to give people bad experiences, right? It's supposed to be awesome. It's supposed to be something that people, yes. Yes, try to enforce that whenever possible. All right.
You don't want negative customer experiences. Got it.
Yes, exactly. Right. I mean, that's really important to us, right? People, games are part of, are a big part of people's hobbies, right? And these lifestyle games, people are dedicating a lot to them, right? And I'm not just talking about buying the stuff to play, but coming out here, it's expensive. Planning time off from work, if you're not young and can play all the time, right? The rest of us who actually, work for a living as well, taking that time off to come here, these are big commitments. I want to make sure that everybody shows up here has a phenomenal experience.
Yeah.
Right? We talk about that all year. We're going to start planning next year's Worlds next week after the guys get a few days off because they're really busting their ass over there. Right? So
yeah, for sure. That means sleep's good.
So this year, overrated. This year, we wanted to make sure that it was going to be a phenomenal experience. And I talked about several times with you guys and other places, we brought it here to really focus on it. So I could throw so many resources at it, right? I couldn't have this whole media team at some convention across the country. Yeah. We have so many employees coming across, judging, helping people register, just helping with traffic flow and information booth and all of that, that I can't do in other areas, right? We did that to make it an awesome experience. We're not trying to make the biggest event. We're trying to make the best event, right? And so sadly, that means we have to cap some stuff based off of our space. Yeah. We do have some ideas. We can talk about that a little bit for going forward to add more people. But again, it's not about how can we get the most people in here and make this the biggest event. There's other venues that we can go for if people want to say they want to play in the biggest event possible. Yeah. I also question where the tipping point is where it stops becoming fun and it's just a grind, right? Yeah. If you're going to play a 15-hour day, is that the best experience for everybody involved? Yeah. I would really seriously question that.
If you had like 700-800 players.
But if to make it a lot bigger, I have to take it somewhere else. Yeah. And then it's not going to be as good of an experience overall. So the whole thing is, we try to be very inclusive with all of our organized play programs, but this is an event that has some exclusivity about it because I can't just make it as big as I want. It will not be the experience that we're trying to provide that I think at the end of the day the players really want. Yeah. So that was really what was behind pre-registration and capping the events. The guys did a very good job planning out every possible seat. And even at the end, we were able to squeeze a few more seats in. Like I said, we have some ideas next year. I know you want to talk about that as well. But we made it as big this year as we thought we could and still make it an awesome event.
Yeah, which is tough because you can't include everybody when that's the case.
I wish I could. That'd be awesome. Yeah. But it's just not. It's not possible. It's not feasible.
So that said, like you just said, you're not trying to create the biggest event.
No.
You're trying to create the best event.
Yeah.
And I think you're doing a really good job of that. So
we're trying.
Yeah. So what is next for Worlds in the evolution? And I know, you guys don't like to announce things until you're ready to announce them, and I totally understand. Right. But is there anything you could tell us about where maybe how you fix that or make that less of an issue or what you're
I have a 2-year plan.
All right, sounds good.
To evolve Worlds to a place that I think will be even more engaging for people and be a phenomenal experience. And currently that 2-year plan still revolves around having it here. But I think there's still a few more tricks up our sleeve that we figured out as we've done this event. Some stuff kind of crystallized here in the last couple of weeks for us, I think. And we have a pretty definitive plan for next year that we'll be announcing pretty soon. I just want to get it through all the approvals and get it all done. I mean, us, we don't like to show off like something like you said until it's ready for prime time, right? Yeah. And so we just want to put the last bit of polish on it, and we'll be able to announce what next year's event's going to be soon. And the goal is going forward that people will know well in advance what the whole year's calendar is going to be. Yeah. We've got Zach Rayburn is the new organized play manager on my team, and he's doing a great job. And his goal is at the Gamma Trade Show for retailers in Las Vegas in March to announce 2017 schedule then.
Wow.
So
that's getting ahead of the curve.
You heard it here. I've put him on the. I've thrown him out there.
He's now on the clock. So if March 2016 doesn't come around, we need to know the whole schedule. Or
that's and obviously well before then you'll know the whole schedule for 2016 as well.
Very cool. Well, let's talk about organized play.
Okay.
Let's do it. Right. So before we dive in to anything organized play related, you just said like you'll be announcing the whole 2017 schedule, and like we've seen the evolution of. You used to just have regionals, and then you had the Gen Con event. And then you had Worlds, and then you had Store Championships.
Yeah.
And you've kind of created this structure, right?
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit. LCGs are interesting, because particularly LCGs and the miniatures games. Yeah. Because...
You're in Minnesota, that's not always a compliment.
Oh. I'm from Oklahoma. Interesting is a parlance of our times. Yeah. Anyways, so... OP system has evolved, right?
Yeah.
And you guys are continuing to figure that out and do it. What's the philosophy behind your OP system? Like, why do you do the OP system?
To build communities. It's pretty simple, right? I think that people have a real innate desire, almost in our DNA, to be part of something bigger than themselves, right? And games and hobbies especially are something that people get really passionate about. I mean, I know I do, right? And I want to engage in those big communities. It feels so cool, right? I mean, it's awesome to be, I was watching the Imperial Assault tournament out there today, and there's, 80 some guys battling it out, and you see all the stuff, and you see a lot of good camaraderie. You see people talking afterwards and laughing and joking. It's serious competition, but people are still really good sportsmen about it. I think, we're trying to build communities that are not super cutthroat. They can be very highly competitive, but really sportsmanlike. I mean, that was what was so great to see that with Paul and Nathan in that X-Wing final, right? There was 280, 90 something people playing in that event. And you just didn't see a lot of bitterness and, table flipping type mentality, right?
That's for sure.
That's not what we're trying to make really awesome communities that'll welcome there were a ton of people cheering for Nathan at 14 years old. He wasn't excluded because he was a teenager and not an adult. The adults just welcomed him and really had a lot of respect for his play.
Yeah.
And when he beat people, they were really good about it, and he was really good when he lost as well.
How cool was that?
That was awesome.
Yeah, it's
right?
So cool.
It really was. Like I said, I was amazed at the poise he had, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the last thing you want is to see somebody break down in that situation, and he just held up awesome. And he even the joke at the end, throwing all of his dice and throwing up his hands and shaking Paul's hand, that was fantastic, right? I mean, that's what we're trying to do. I think games help bring people together, and I'm not going to get all peace and love and all of that kind of stuff, right? We're not trying to save the world, but games are a form of entertainment, and these are lifestyle hobbies that people pour a lot into and really passionate about, and we want them to have other people to share that with. And you do that by building communities, right? And then these communities are centered around all of these awesome retail stores out there, like yours and Millennium Games up in New York, and there's countless ones out there, right? And these hubs are really important to people, right? I think it's good for the hobby, it's good for the industry, and it's great for the players. I want to play games that other people are playing, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right. If it doesn't matter how great the game is, if I don't have anybody to play with, that's just sad. Now it's just now it's just cool stuff sitting on my shelf. That's not what I want. I've got cool stuff sitting on my shelf, right?
You really do. In spades.
I want to play games, and I want people to play, and I think that other people want that too. So we're trying to make these big communities and allow people to really engage and find people that have the same hobbies, the same kind of sensibility in that regard. They're really passionate about the same things, and that's what you're seeing a lot of here at Worlds, and I hope you're seeing it even in your store and stores across the world. Is you're playing these events and you're forming friendships and relationships with these other people. And yeah, the game's important, but the people are just as important too, right? You get done playing, you shake hands and you start talking about, 40 days to the next movie or what, all of that kind of stuff. I heard that, yes.
I mean, I think that's the most important thing. It's more important than the game. Yeah. Is that relationship. That's what makes tabletop games special, right?
Yes.
Is that connection.
Right? Like I said, I feel like people want to socialize face-to-face with people across the table. Yeah. And organized play is a way to do that.
Sure.
Right?
Well, so, and that's where kind of going, my question is, when you're designing these, like this OP system and the OP kits, right? Like you have worlds, and it can be a pretty serious event for some people, and it's very competitive, and there's a lot of really good players. But I think the reality, and something I'm a competitive player, and I've played competitive games for a long time, and the reality I've really started to come to the past several years is that there's a lot of non-competitive gamers. They want to compete and they want to win, but like they don't really care about winning a world championship or a regional. They just want to be a part of the community. So, it's things like the OP kits and the store championships and whatnot. Who are those tailored for, right? Like, I almost feel like there's two sides of the equation, which is your competitive people and your casual people. And how do you support both? And like, is there more that could be done in those arenas?
Yeah, it's a little lopsided right now, to be honest, right? I mean, we have Worlds is kind of the pinnacle of what the really highly competitive people are reaching for, right? And it's a great aspirational event. I mean, that's what we see, 3,200 some people watching that live stream of that final. Those are people really engaged, right? I would bet that a lot of those people want to come be part of this because it's so much fun. It's so exciting, right? The event's so special. And then you have national championships. We have the North American Championship at Gen Con and regionals and store championships, and then the regular tournament kits. And really, the only thing in that equation that I just talked about that is really for casual players are the tournament kits. Because the stores can choose to make those events as casual or competitive as they want to be. They don't have to be tournaments. They could be leagues. Yeah. They could just be a game night where it's like, well, you show up and play 2 games or whatever and you get this thing. Yeah. It doesn't have to have any structure to it at all. The only thing stores can't do with that is sell them, because then that ruins the whole integrity of the program, right? And we come down on those people pretty hard because the whole point of those kits is to draw people into those stores to create those communities in those stores and make the local hobby game store the community hubs, right? Yeah. That people know, I go down to your store or my local store, I know I'm going to be able to find people to play with. So I'm going on a side tangent about the integrity of the program, right? But that is really important, and
it's the why.
It's the why, right? I mean, and I hope retailers are starting to get that why that's important. Instead of selling that kit on eBay, to run those events in the store to draw those people in, so that store is the go-to place always for that game, for that area, right? And but right now, I think there's a lot more we could do for casual players. We have plans to do even more for the really competitive players. There's some new event types that we're going to introduce in the next 18 months.
All right.
Yeah, there you go. I said it. And I'm not going to tell you what it is.
All right. But, we'll talk to you next time.
There's at least 2 more types of events for competitive players that we'll see in the next 12 to 18 months.
Very cool.
Maybe one of them sooner than that. But and there could be more. We've talked about others, right? We always want to evolve. We always want to. Will they all work? I don't know. We can talk about taking chances later if you want. But there's still, I think, the more ground that needs to be covered is what to do for casual players.
Yeah, because there's a lot of them.
Yes, there is. We talk about the high level play of X-Wing. One of the things that really blows me away about this game, though, is the broad appeal of that game in particular, right? I mean, we get letters from families talking about how parents are playing with their 7-year-old. Or, I remember one mom wrote into us a while back. It was a great story. She talked about how it's the only game her 7 and 9-year-old can play without fighting. Now, they're not playing the same game that's being played across the parking lot over there, and that doesn't matter at all. They're having fun playing the game they're playing. Yeah. And, that's fantastic. So what do we do for families that are playing those games, right? Yes, there was a 14-year-old in the World Championship final, but maybe a lot of the 14-year-olds don't want to play at that level, right? My son doesn't. Yeah. He likes the game, but he doesn't want to play at that level. Yeah. Right? He was in visiting me today and thought the stuff was cool, but he's like, he'd rather just, play with his friends or play something more casual. He'd play in a store, but he doesn't want to play at that level. Yeah. Right? You know, for him, it's what we talked about. For him, it's definitely much more about the interaction with his friends.
Yeah. And so do you think, that being the case, do you think it's important to get those people into the stores, even for non-competitive reasons?
Yeah,
right? Like,
absolutely.
I feel like there's a support element maybe missing there.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's fine that people play games at home. That's great. Or, you know, internationally, a lot of the games happen at pubs, which is cool, and that kind of stuff, right?
I need to go to Europe.
Yeah. But I think that it opens up so much more to them if they play in stores with other people, even at a casual level, 100%. Right? So one of the challenges with that, though, is, which should be your next question.
You tell me. I can leave.
How can we? How can we create compelling formats for casual players that really competitive players don't swoop in and kind of chase them away from?
Yeah.
Right? So we have some ideas on that, and we're going to roll some of those ideas out and see if they work. And if they crash and burn, we'll try something else. Right? Because I think it's just great for all the communities, because some amount of those casual players will become more competitive players. Some of them will stay casual players forever, but that's fine. The more gamers we have, the more potential gamers we have. And that's just better for all of us. That means more people to play with.
Yeah.
And like I said, that's what we want.
That's awesome. So speaking of casual, a game that often goes unmentioned a lot and doesn't really get much coverage is Lord of the Rings. It's a long-standing LCG. It's super successful. Yeah. It's totally casual. There is no tournament system.
But we do a lot of coverage on that. We promote a lot on the website.
For sure. You guys post about it. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, like, you don't see big events, so you're not seeing videos and interviews and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So in a few weeks, the fellowship event's coming up.
Yeah.
Is that happening all over the world, or is that just the US?
No, it's all around the world.
Yeah. And those have been immensely successful, from what I can tell. So how do you feel about Lord of the Rings? Like, if you're going a little more casual in the other games too and offering some more support, or at least considering it, should we kind of expect the same thing for that? And where's Lord of the Rings in your mind?
Personally, I love Lord of the Rings. It's a game I play with my wife and son.
Yep.
We like playing the game a lot. It's a great game. We play at our kitchen table, have a really good time with it, right? And I think a lot of people do. And I think we do 2 kind of fellowship events a year. We do one at Gen Con, and we do one
after Gen Con.
October, November-ish, right?
Yeah.
So we liked October, but we were running a little late, so it's November this year.
It happens.
It does. It turns out that's true. That's very true. More often than you think it's true. So we had experimented with more formalized kits and stuff in the past. I know you guys did a lot with those, and some other retailers did as well in communities. What we found, though, is not in every case, but a bigger percentage of those kits than any other game. In fact, I think the last stats we took, more than all of the other games put together, was just trying to be taken and sold online. Right? And then retailers complaining that they weren't getting hardly any attendance. And then players complaining that they were showing up at stores and there was nobody there, and all sorts of things across the board, right? Yeah. So I think it became a lot of people did phenomenal stuff with it and had thriving communities, but so much of it was just kind of going off the rails of what it was supposed to do and not building communities, right? That we decided, with all of the other activity we have going on, that there were probably better ways to serve the Lord of the Rings community.
Sure.
And we're trying right now with these fellowship events, and they're very popular. Because again, even at a casual level, I think people want to come together and be part of something that's bigger than themselves.
100%.
So
I think particularly at the casual level.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Because the social aspect of it is important.
Yeah.
So it's on us to figure out how that could evolve over time.
Yeah.
We've had some thoughts on stuff. I don't think we've really hit on anything that I think will really gets me excited to really, really roll out, that I think people will really gravitate towards. So instead of doing something half-baked that's just, this is okay, we want to come up with something else spectacular for it. And we're just not there yet. I mean, as long as people keep loving these fellowship events, we'll do them.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, they're awesome.
So
they're incredible.
We tried that as an experiment last year. We've been doing it at Gen Con. So, let's do one more and see what happens. And I think we had about 300 stores worldwide run them, and very, very positive feedback.
Yeah.
So how do we take the next step on that?
Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan, and
I know you are.
When it gets cold, I particularly like to quest a lot. So
sure. It turns out it gets cold up here a lot.
Yeah, it does get cold. Yeah. It's cold right now. So so let's lean a little. It's really not that cold. Let's lean away from casual for a second and go back to competitive.
All right. We're not going to throw down here, are we?
We can.
Okay.
We got the cameras.
Okay.
Now, so one thing we've seen in the past year really kind of spring up, particularly for Netrunner, is this independent series of tournaments happening, led by the community. And we mentioned it in our last interview with you over Skype. But I'd like to get your take one more time now that's kind of playing out and actually happening. What's your thoughts on this side style of tournaments with this whole independent community forming around this other non-official tournament system?
Well, I think, we talked about we do this to generate communities. If people think that there's room to generate more than what we're doing and they can be successful at it, that's great. Yeah. I'm not like, I don't feel jealous or like, oh my gosh, what are they doing, right?
Yeah.
I have my opinions, I think, on what's going to work long term. And I think some people have some different opinions on it. I know the pink elephant in the room is probably talking about cash prizes. I've heard some people pretty vocal think that cash prizes are the way to go. It's been my experience in my 25 years in the industry that outside of a particular game, nobody's been able to make that work.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons why that is at the end of the day, we play games to have fun.
Not
right? That's if you're trying to win money, then it's a job, right? Then I already have a job. It changes the whole value proposition and expectation, and it changes the mood of the community if you're not careful.
Yeah.
Maybe not right away, but after time. I think there's a reason only one group has ever been able to make this work.
Yeah.
So that's just not something that we care to go down. We're going to continue to expand our organized play. Like I said, we have some more formats to introduce, some more event types to introduce. So there's more ways for people to benchmark themselves and earn that gamer glory, which we've talked about a lot. And I think that's important. And there's going to be more ways to qualify for Worlds going forward.
Cool.
So, and what I like about that is this year, making those, like in the U.S., making those regional events, the winners being pre-qualified for Worlds, that makes those regional events a lot more important.
Yeah.
And that will drive a lot more people into those stores, right? And that strengthens those community hubs all around the country.
100%.
And that's good for everybody.
Yep. Right? The whole system, the whole structure.
Yeah, right? And there will be some more ways to qualify that will, again, strengthen those communities and hopefully strengthen those stores that are supporting the games as well.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear. Yeah. I'm excited about it.
Sure.
So we'll stay tuned on the OP front.
Yeah.
So let's switch gears for a second.
All right.
It's November of 2015, which I never thought would get here.
Yeah.
And we are barely a month away from The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
And you guys have the Star Wars license and are making phenomenal Star Wars games. But before we talk about any of that, I have to ask. So far, we know very little about the movie.
It's true.
Personally, what is your favorite Episode 7 character at this point?
BB-8.
We have a winner. We have an obvious winner, right? How do you not like BB-8?
Yeah, how do you not like him? He's so cool.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, are you excited?
Yeah, of course I'm excited. I've got...
I was going to say, how many movie tickets have you already bought?
I've got tickets for 5 showings the first 4 days.
It's really that's how we judge the level of Star Wars fandom is how many tickets does someone have. So you're level 5. That's pretty high.
Level 5, I think.
It's pretty high.
Yeah.
I'm only level 3. So
so my quick geek story about that is being a bit older than the rest of you guys. I saw the original Star Wars movie when I was 14 and a half years old on opening day. And this year in December, my son will be 14 and a half years old and see his first Star Wars live action movie in the theater with me. The Thursday night at 7:20 showing.
That's phenomenal.
It's awesome.
That's phenomenal.
I can't even describe how awesome that is to me.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
That's so good. So what knowing your personal connection to the universe of Star Wars, because I know you're a big fan. I mean, look in here, and you're telling your story there. What is it like getting to market and promote and work on Star Wars games? Like, what does that really mean to you? Like, that's got to be, there can't be anything better.
No, it's really hard to express. Yeah, it really is. It's a blessing. It's such a privilege and a responsibility, right? I also feel a big weight about that too. I don't want to screw it up, right?
Yeah, I understand.
Not, for all the fans out there and for myself personally, I don't want to go home and tell my son, oh man, we really blew this. That would be horrible, right?
Yeah, you won't ever live it down. Right?
I just know that would be horrible, right? Yeah. I mean, so this company is filled with people that are so passionate about this, right? And it's so exciting. And it's like there's heated debates that happen to make sure everything is right. There's times I've looked up and said, we're getting paid to talk about Star Wars, right?
That's the dream.
And everybody just kind of sits back and it's like, oh yeah, how about that, right? But it is. It's a real privilege and it's an honor, but it is also a responsibility.
Yeah.
Right? Because this is one of the biggest legacies of all time, right? And it's about to be reborn here very, very shortly. And to be part of that has just been, wow. I don't know if I could go back and tell 14-year-old Steve that he's going to get to do this someday, I don't know if I could even comprehend it, right? It's just unbelievable.
That's really awesome. Well, it's in good hands. I'm really glad it's in hands. That's awesome to hear.
It's really hard not even to just kind of get choked up about it. You could hear my voice tightening up a little bit, right? Yeah. It's a real responsibility, and it's such a privilege, and it's so much fun. It's so much fun.
Yeah, that's right? So cool. I can't even imagine.
So,
very cool. Well, we'll move away from Star Wars.
Okay.
So you can relax a little bit here. You guys recently announced a flight crew.
Yeah.
What's that all about? I assume I know nothing.
Okay.
You don't have to assume I know nothing, but what's a flight crew?
Wow, was that a setup or what? I don't know. So now I have to reorient it after that. But we might have done this too many times. I don't know, quite a few times. But, so the flight crew is our way to help reach more people, right? We get convention requests, retail requests, event requests every week.
Yep.
We don't have enough people. We don't have enough hours in the day, right? It takes a long time, sometimes too long, as people are painfully aware to make these games, right? And we can't be sending people out all over the world. We did that with the Netrunner Tour a couple years ago now, and it put organized play behind probably 4 months.
It was intense.
Doing that, and some products probably were delayed some over that as well. It really put us behind.
Yeah.
Are we going to do cool events like that again? That's what people out there, it's like, whoa, what about more? It's like, yeah, I think we have some ideas from other cool events that don't involve sending so many staff, many places for 6 weeks.
Yeah, that was crazy. Crazy ambitious.
I think Stuart was on the road 5 weekends in a row.
Crazy. It was cool, though.
It was cool. Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. So this is a way for us to reach and engage in more of those kind of things, right? So there's a special event somewhere, or there's a convention that says, hey, can you be there? No, but we have a team of independent contractors that can come out and run an event or do demos or, have a presence there.
Yeah.
So really, it's not complicated. It's just really that's what it is. Is there's like a special event at a retail location, for a hobby game store that wants to do something really extraordinary. Well, we can't be there, but maybe we have a team that can be there instead.
Yeah.
Is there a convention, on the other side of the country that's doing something that's like, wow, I wish we could be there. Well, I can't send somebody, but hey, we have a crew of these guys that can come and work it instead.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
That's the way to do it. And so it's a chance, for people to do something that they really love, and then they even get to earn a little extra money on the side doing it. So
cool. Well, that sounds awesome. It sounds like everyone wins there.
We got flooded when we announced it. It was pretty spectacular.
People wanted to do
it. Several hundred people in the first 24 hours.
That's
cool. I was really hopeful, but it went way past my expectations. So that was awesome.
Well, congrats.
So he'll be Matt Holland's the guy running up that program, and he's working through those. He's working at Worlds all this week, but he's going to be hammering through all those applications. It was really cool. Some people that applied are here this weekend too, and talking to him and getting ready. There's a guy out in California that's playing a bunch of events here that already has a huge crew doing a bunch of stuff on their own that we're going to get involved and plugged into this program and do some cool stuff with. So
that's really cool. I'm excited to see the results of that.
Yeah, me too.
I think it'll be
yeah. I mean, it's like, we talked about building communities, and this is a way to build more communities and make the existing communities larger in kind of a force multiplier type of way, right? Because we can't be everywhere.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
The struggle is real.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, we'll see how that goes over the next year or two.
All right.
Let's talk about second edition Thrones.
Okay.
You guys, last year at Worlds, you guys announced that you were rebooting Thrones.
Yeah.
And some people were really excited. Some people weren't.
Yeah.
The game is out. It came out of Gen Con. It released last month.
Mm-hmm.
You're having an event here at the World Championship weekend.
Yes.
It's not Worlds, but it's an event for a tournament for the game. How has the release gone, and what's the reception been?
Well, it sold out before we shipped it. So I'm going to say that's pretty good.
I think that's all right.
Yeah.
I think that's a good problem.
Makes me wish we would have made some more, but more are on the way. Right?
Yeah, I mean, you can't.
Yeah.
You can't know.
Yeah.
You can try.
You can try, right? But it's been phenomenal. And this event has been really cool, in particular, seeing kind of handing the torch from first edition to second edition. I had a long talk with Nate the other night as first edition was running, and I had talked to several people, and of course an army of people had talked to Nate about it because he's been so plugged into that community, about how special it was for them to have this kind of last hurrah and talk about it being the end of one era but then the beginning of another era. And so it was very special, I think, and it was great. And again, it ties back to the community, right? That community is amazing, and they're so tight-knit, and there's people, they're playing very competitively, but when the game is done, they're having a good time together and talking about, the show, the novels, movies, life, everything. Second edition, what that's going to be like. And I think it's telling that the second edition special event that we're running is going to be the highest attended Thrones event for the weekend. For the 5 days, right? So people are really excited about it, right? Really, really excited about it.
Yeah, and I think there was because of how many products you had for the first edition, how long it had been out. There was a huge barrier for people that wanted to get in.
Yes.
And there's been the LCG community has grown significantly since Thrones came out.
Boy, is it ever.
Yeah. So it's really cool. Like I know there's a lot of people at our store who have wanted to play for a long time because it's the oldest standing community at our store.
Yeah.
And going back to the community, right? Like if this game just stopped getting produced, you potentially just disconnect with a bunch of your best friends. And so it's really cool that you guys have reset. And I think the reception on our end, at least, has been very positive.
Well, it was a big deal. And I think we talked about this before, so I won't go over all that again, that it was really long thought out and it was taking a chance, but we thought it was worth it, right? You don't win a lot playing it safe and being defensive.
Yep.
And so we took a big chance, and I think the community, it's paid off. I think part of it is we've earned some trust from players moving from the CCG model to the LCG model for the game. A lot of people left very angry when we did that.
Yep.
I came on board right when that was going on, and people were very, very angry. And a lot of people just didn't understand the format at every layer, from players to retailers LCG, to distributors, to everything, right? And there were a lot of doomsayers, but we kept hammering away at it, and it kept growing and growing, and we had a good amount of people come back to the LCG that had left when we made the transition and become our staunchest supporters. So I think when we made this announcement, I think a lot of those players were kind of a steadying influence on the community, like, hey, we've been through something bigger than this before, and it was fine.
It was better than fun.
And so the game's stronger now than it's ever been.
Yeah.
How many games can say that after 10 years? Not very many, right?
Very, very few.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about that, and I think the game's going to continue to have a super bright future and be bigger than ever, right? And it does give people a chance to come into the game that always wanted to. And then hopefully this rotation policy that we've put into effect for all of our LCGs will make sure that none of them get so out of control that we have to do something like this again, right? Yeah. And so now, and people also they have confidence. It's like, well, I know how that rotation policy works. I know I'm going to have several years with every card that I get, and then that will rotate out of the tournament environment, but it'll still be around to play with casually and fun and side events and all of that kind of stuff, right? It was great on Tuesday night before the event even started. There were a bunch of guys playing in a 2.0 just event that they created by themselves.
Yeah, I saw that.
That was awesome, right? And that gets back to you about people doing their own thing in the community. That's great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that's really cool to see, right? And as long as people are playing with other people and playing games, winning is happening.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. That's the goal. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So speaking of games that have communities that have been around for more than 10 years. You guys recently announced that you will be making the L5R, Legends of the Five Rings, LCG.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. That is crazy. That is one of the longest standing card games.
It is.
And that's one of I've been around card games for a long time. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those, the community for that game is talked about more than the game is talked about. So speaking of community, speaking of games of long standing, tell me about L5R and it's why should people who've never heard of it or people that have played L5R be just so crazy excited that it is going to be an LCG in 2017?
Do you like awesome?
Yes.
Then you should be excited. All right. That's John Zinser's the founder, the owner of AEG, who's been the publisher of that game. I've known John and been friends and had a relationship with him for 20 years now. I learned the game personally when I was a hobby game retailer at a Berkeley Games open house a few months before the game came out. One of the designers taught me the game and gave me a Dragon and Lion starter deck. And I took it back to my store. I had one person with me from my store. We learned how to play, and I fell in love right away and said, oh, this is it. And I brought those two decks that they gave me back to the store, and I told everybody, I said, this is the game we're playing now. And it came out, I taught everybody.
This is it, the whole store. Playing this.
Yeah, and I taught everybody that would listen to me how to play. The game came out, everybody brought in. We became one of the biggest L5R stores in the country, if not the world. And at one point, 6 of the top 10 players in the world were playing out of my store.
Nice.
And when I got hired by Wizards of the Coast, I was ranked number 6 in the world. And I got to spend a year as the brand manager of the game at the 2000 L5R event, 2001, I think. Yeah. And it was a huge event, one of the biggest events they've ever had. I think they had 375 the first day of qualifying and 368 the second day.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty mind-blowing, right? And that was leading into gold edition of the product. So I have a very long history with the game.
Yeah.
I've played it since day one.
Since before day one.
Sure, yeah. And I've always followed it. Like I said, John Zinser's a good friend of mine. The guy who has been the lead designer of the game the past several years is a guy named Brian Reese, who I taught to play the game in my store when he was 14 years old.
Awesome.
Right, and he won a world championship and a bunch of stuff and got involved and became the lead designer. He's a great guy. So I have a long history with the game. The company has a great relationship with AEG, and a situation came up earlier this year, and John and I had a conversation, and it just kind of went from there.
The rest is history.
It just kind of worked itself out.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, I'm L5R has been one of those games that sort of like Thrones First Edition, where by the time I was old enough and cared to even be interested, there was just too big of a barrier on both starting to play and buying all the stuff and the experience curve and whatnot. So,
well, in some ways, its greatest strength has also kind of worked against it over the years too, right? Because there's a phenomenal community in the storyline. It is the interactive story game, right? And it's so immersive that I think at times it has made people like, oh, I can't get involved in all of that. But we have some very strong ideas on how everybody can get involved. It is going to continue to be the interactive story game. There's going to be some amazing things on the horizon. We've had some initial IP meetings about it and story meetings, and the game is going to go through some changes, some real changes. And again, that's going to be controversial, right? But playing it safe is not how you win, right? If you look...
it's like what you did with Netrunner.
Yeah. The safe bet would have just been to republish it as it was, but...
not the right call.
Not the right call. I mean, I know you're a football fan, so I'll use the sports analogy. I'm a big football fan, too.
I'm a football fan, yeah.
I think we even talked about this the other day, right? You see so many teams playing to win and put themselves in a position to win, and then 2 minutes to go, and they go into that 2-minute prevent defense, and the other team marches down the field and kicks a field goal or scores a touchdown and wins the game.
Yeah.
It's like, just play the game that got you there, right? Don't get scared. The second that you start playing not to lose instead of playing to win,
you lose.
That's when you're doomed.
Yeah.
Right? And
I totally agree.
So we're going to keep playing to win. Are we going to make mistakes sometimes? Yeah. We have, and we will continue to. And when we fix them, yes. But if we're afraid to make mistakes, we're not going to make the games and have the OP events and the tournaments and championships and stuff that you love to play in.
Yeah.
That's just,
I'm super excited to see it.
Yeah.
I trust that you'll do a great job, and I'm excited to check out L5R when it comes out in 2017.
In 2017. Well, one thing I want to talk about that, if I could.
All right, yeah, go ahead.
As well, because a lot of people have been asking, and we communicate in a much different way than AEG does.
Yep.
Right? We talked about before, we don't like to talk about things until we're really, really ready to show them off. And we're not ready to talk about AEG. We're not ready to talk about L5R yet. Right? I mean, beyond what we just said there, right? The game is going to be different. There's going to be a lot of changes. The story is going to be awesome. But until we have that all done and polished and ready to show off, we're really not going to talk about it very much. So I know that community is really passionate. So all I can say is have patience, right? It's coming. It's going to be worth the wait.
I fully believe you. I'm not questioning that, and it is. And I'm excited to see what you guys do. It's a beautiful universe, a beautiful story, and a great community. So. And
the Dragon Clan is awesome.
I haven't played, but that is the one thing that I know. As a fan, that is. I'll be a Dragon Clan.
There you go. All right.
Last question.
Okay.
What are you most looking forward to in the next 12 months at FFG? Drop that one on you.
So, I'm the guy that determines what we can say and not say to the public, right? So
I can't go wrong with this question. You can only say what you can say. You're the last line of defense.
I am super stoked for Rebellion.
The
game is just like, I've been waiting 30-some years to play that game. I've played it now, but I've been waiting,
Yeah, and you give it 2 thumbs up, eh?
Oh, my gosh.
Yep.
Oh, man. It is... We need to play that game.
All right.
It's
a deal.
It's in FFG fashion, it is epic. It is going to take a long time. It'll be well worth it.
I mean, it's the whole Star Wars story, right? In a board game.
Yes.
The Star Wars story.
But it will be different every time you play.
Yeah.
Right? It was, we played with one of the senior editors over at Game Informer. We work with quite a bit. Matt's a great guy, and he came out and played the game, and they did a feature on it when we announced it, and it knocked the site down, so that was awesome. Right?
Your site or their site?
Our site.
Yeah. Nice.
And he was blown away. I mean, it's this epic story, and it's going to be different every time.
Your own Star Wars story, right?
You could build a second Death Star while the first one is still operational, right? You can.
You're singing to my heart.
Yes, right. You're building. So as the empire, you're trying to hunt down those rebel scum, right? And find their secret base,
and you blow them.
Wipe it up, wipe it out, blow it up. You win. Where the rebels are scrappy, they're going around hitting and run. There's combats happening, and they're trying to gain enough influence to get the whole galaxy to rebel,
to turn on the empire,
right? And once they hit that turning point, then they will win. But crazy things can happen.
I was gonna say, is it constant pressure? Like, you're trying to, as the empire, you're just trying to pin people down and not let anyone through your grasp, right? And the flip is the rebellion. You're just trying to survive.
Yeah, but the rebellion can get strong enough to have fights with the empire as well, right? And the empire has to be careful. If they spread themselves too thin, they can get in bad shape. The rebels are allowed to grow strong enough, then their military supremacy can get threatened, right? All sorts of stuff can play out. Crazy things that are just awesome. I mean, it's a what if fans dream game.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. And then there's something else later in the year that I can't talk about that people are going to just, we will be talking about it this time next year.
All right.
And you're going to say, I can't believe you're doing this. Oh my gosh.
Well, the last time you said that, you announced Imperial Assault.
And I was right, wasn't I?
And my mind was on the wall. So
he was a doubter. He's like, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think I'm going to be that blown away. And he was. I'm just going to say that.
That's why I don't doubt you. When you say these things, you have delivered now enough times that I can't question you. So, Steve, thank you so much for sitting down for the interview. It's always a pleasure, and I look forward to our next interview.
All right. Thanks a lot, man.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you guys for watching. We got plenty more coverage coming from FFG Worlds 2015. Stay tuned.